Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, boys and girls, and especially to veterans of World War II, a very warm welcome to Holy Trinity Parish Church at the heart of our city of Kingston upon Hull. It is my privilege to welcome you to this magnificent building, a building which has been iconic in our town and then our city over 700 years, has survived civil war, Zeppelin raids in the First World War, and of course all the horrific bombing of our city during the last war. Can I just ask, how many of you here remember the 8th of May 1945? This is not to embarrass you, but to honour you. Just how many of you were there? Right, brilliant. Some of you in uniform, I'm sure, others here on the home front. And it's also, as well as the 70th anniversary of VE Day, it's also the 74th anniversary, as I'm sure you're well aware, of the two most horrific nights of bombing of Hull, when hundreds died and much property was destroyed. So I hope that you will find tonight poignant and moving. I suppose the original day on the 8th of May 1945, there was a celebration, but also a sense of reflection, the cost of that war, probably to many people very personally. Perhaps it was a bittersweet occasion. I have to give one or two housekeeping notices, I'm afraid. If there is an emergency, the main doors out are the one you came in or through the south door, and there is another door up there. The stewards will direct you, but let's hope none of us catches fire or on anything worse. If you have a mobile phone, please do turn it off or at least to silent, so that the voices of the choir will not have an obligato mobile accompanying them at just the wrong moment. After this service, this ceremony, it's not really a service, a ceremony, there will be refreshments served at the southeast corner of the church. Just keep going and you'll find them. I think there's more refreshments at the northeast corner as well. So do make use of those. If you like being on the media, we are being televised and recorded. Just a little mention that on the 24th of May, that's a Sunday, the service here at 8:10 in the morning will be live on Radio 4. It's a free event. You can come and sing and get on the radio if you like. So if you're inspired by these folk behind me, 24th of May, you will need to get a ticket and you'll need to be here at 7:30 in the morning. But on with this evening. Today we're going to welcome a number of special guests. Lady Arabella Stewart-Smith, the granddaughter of Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, Sir Bernard Montgomery, if I got that right, and John Millin, whose father famously played the pipes on D-Day on the beaches. And we also welcome the 90 or so, members of the Hull Freedom Chorus, who are conducted this evening by Helen Yeomans. And they're going to present a selection of material composed by Helen, which reflects today's themes of freedom, unity, and peace. And very much a fitting choral setting for our celebration of the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. And so the Freedom Flame also is a very special guest, as are the gentlemen who brought it, many of whom were veterans themselves of the Second World War. And they've been all over Europe in the last week or two, so do ask them what they've been up to. Apparently it's been a stunning tour, and this is very much the culmination. And maybe just as we move into our ceremony, as others have pointed out, there is a rather poignant juxtaposition of today's event and the general election yesterday, when we were able freely to choose who we want to serve us in Parliament and to lead us. And I guess that the folk who served and often died in the last war on the battlefields and, of course, on the home front were fighting that we would have the right to do just that. So we come together So remember and honour those all who gave their lives that we may enjoy peace, freedom, and unity.
Good evening. I'm Helen Yeomans, and I was first invited to work with the Whole Freedom Chorus 2 years ago. There was an intergenerational project with a theme of unity, which they wanted me to write music for. So that's when I first came up to Hull and worked with this chorus. And it was just lovely to work with a group whose ethos of freedom is so embedded with them in their music and their approach. So when Claire Drury of Hull City Council Arts Development and Mike Fuller of the Freedom Flame Project commissioned me to write again special music for this event, I said, yes, please. It's nice to come up here. The themes of peace and unity and freedom is something that resonates in everything that I write. It's what is my work. And these themes are shared by the chorus and by the Freedom Flame Project. And I believe that those themes are as strong now and important as they were 70 years ago when the flame was first kindled after the liberation of Europe. And the songs that we're going to sing for you tonight reflect that, and they are in honor of all the people who have given their lives and who are still fighting for freedom around the world, everywhere. So we are going to begin with a song called One Love. Thank you. This next song is actually a chant. It's a peace chant. And it's been inspired by the huge, courageous effort of all those people in the Middle East who've been campaigning and struggling and fighting for just democracy, something we take for granted. This is in their name. This is called Live in Peace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have to excuse me, I am not a public speaker. You are wondering what the Freedom Flame actually is. In 1948, we'd fought through 6 years of war and we had an unsettled world. The Iron Curtain was forming, the Berlin airlift was on. We had fought for 6 years, we'd lost millions of men and women, and we hadn't achieved our aims. We were very fortunate to have a figure like Monty. I won't steal the speech from Lady Stuart Smith, but suffice it to say that Monty lit this flame in Portsmouth in 1948. We were fortunate to bring this flame to Britain last year. We were the first people ever to bring it from Holland. So the flame had never left Holland before. It burns atop a monument in a town called Wageningen, or Wageningen, so to pronounce it more accurately. That flame is used every year as a symbol of Dutch liberation. On the 5th of May, torches are lit and taken all over Holland. Last year there were 75 flames. This year, in the main event, there were 210 flames with 5,000 athletes who ran it all over Holland. We were fortunate to be able to take part in that. So we left Hull on the 27th of April. We had a send-off with the Lord Mayor, and then we proceeded to Portsmouth. In Portsmouth, we recreated the lighting of the flame at the place it was lit, at the D-Day Stone, with Lady Arabella Stuart Smith. A very poignant moment, the full circle all these years later. We travelled over to the D-Day beaches the next day. One of our number, a Ray Lord, who was embarrassed about me pointing him out again, Ray landed on D-Day on Sword Beach at 5 to 8 as part of the 2nd Battalion East Yorks. We located the spot that Ray landed, and Ray handed over a torch to a Dutch Marine at the time he landed, at the place he landed. In our little van, our band of merry men, the 4 of us, we were fortunate to have with us Mr. John Millin, whose father, nearby on that stretch of beach, played the pipes as men landed. Fairly unique, really, because he was basically unarmed. He had a pistol with a couple of rounds in it, and that was it, apart from his ski and do. Out of 156,000 men that landed on D-Day, he was one of the men that probably took the highest risk, but was fortunate to walk away from it. That Dutch Marine then handed over to a team of cyclists, and that cyclist then set off on an 800-kilometre cycle through France, Belgium to the Belgian-Dutch border, and then it was run the rest of the way by a team of runners into Wageningen. But along the way, we gang of merry men, we set off, and when veterans go and lay wreaths, it's described as a pilgrimage. This turned into a real pilgrimage. The first wreath we laid was at the monument to John Millin's father. The second one was at the monument to Monty, and so on. Along the way, we went to Pegasus Bridge, the first thing liberated on D-Day, and then to the grave of the first man killed on D-Day, Den Brotheridge. And we had a young Dutch photographer with us. I was acutely aware that this could be a formative moment in his life. So we dropped the group off, including the photographer, at the grave of Den Brotheridge, and then asked them to walk round to the cemetery. The cemetery, and there are people in here who have been in that cemetery, I know there are, was in immaculate condition. It was the best I've ever seen it. That young man has changed for life. We doubled back to Bayeux Cemetery to lay wreaths for people who had asked us to lay them there. And then we stopped in a place called Bonnebosque. Bonnebosque is the place where one of our number had his best friend buried. There's a mystery behind it. There were 4 men in a van, in a truck. It disappeared. 3 of them are buried behind our lines in a row. This young man was buried on his own with just a Spitfire pilot in a churchyard. While we were there, a French man appeared, a 92-year-old, desperate to tell a story. He was a resistance man. He took us into his house and showed us things that we'd never dreamt. The next day, we followed the route of the Princess Irene Brigade, the main Dutch brigade to fight the way through Normandy. The next day became a First World War story, a great war story. We started in Thiepval, 72,000 names on one monument of young men whose remains were never found. And then to Oppy. Oppy is the place where the Hull Pals were slaughtered in the First World War. We laid a wreath in Oppy. But we also presented the people of Oppy with a brass shell case. And that brass shell case was a 1916 French shell case, hammered into a trench art, coincidentally tulips. We promised them we're going to go back next year. We'll go back and run an event with them. But then we went round to the edge of Oppy Wood, where 2,000 young men died in 8 hours, to the site where Jack Harrison lost his life earning the VC. We went from there to the Menin Gate in Ypres. We were very, very, very fortunate that the flame was blessed there by Monsignor Professor John Nodemeyer, who is the chaplain to the Swiss Guard in the Vatican. He then took the flame down into the gate and blessed it there. Some of our number were run to Passchendaele and in jeeps. When we got there, our good friend John Millen was using his pipes, but they're not his pipes, they're his father's pipes. Probably the most famous set of pipes in the world. But they're old, they need work. The young man at the other end, who was a piper, said, "I'll help you with those." He could not believe his luck to get his hands on the most famous set of pipes in the world. We've changed his memory forever. The next day was Breendonk concentration camp in Belgium, a former First World War fortress. 3,000 people went through there, only 1,500 came out. We walked around the edge of the fortress, took an acute turn back on ourselves and faced with a line of posts, the execution ground, and a set of gallows in the corner. We were given a marigold there. The marigold campaign will be explained later to you. We laid a large marigold in the urn room. The urn room is a room covered in names of people who perished there and has urns in the middle. The urns are full of ashes from concentration camps across the European plain. Each of the urns is the same size because all people are equal. From there we progressed into Holland, and in Holland we were given the privilege of starting the Dutch National 70th Liberation celebrations. It had never been done before, but along the way another group came from Auschwitz, Theresienstadt concentration camp in Czechoslovakia, Dresden, Berlin, and then Belsen. John Millen's father was in charge of the burial party at Belsen. So for us, it was a very poignant journey. This has been a pilgrimage, and this really is the end point for us. Tonight, we're on this ceremony in celebration of the 70th anniversary of the end of the war. It's in celebration of the peace. It's not in celebration of the victory. It's also in commemoration of those people in Hull who died in the Blitz, a great many. And the whole story has never been told. Now's the time to tell it. Thank you.
We're going to sing a sacred chant, Kyrie eleison, and young Matthew here is going to start us off.
Amen. Tonight, we honor some of those who have fought for our freedoms. Mary Benson, Jack Harrison, VC, Margaret Sumat, Arthur Pooley, Father William Finn, Ronald Berry, Wilf Oldham, Jay Appleton, Ebenezer Cobb Morley, Matthew Anuret, Bill Millin, William Wilberforce, Lillian Bilocca, James Lund, George Cookman, Peter McGrady, Dr. Mary Murdoch, Dave Parr, Mary Dennis, Chrissy Jensen, Thomas Perronet Thompson, Yvonne Blenkinsop, John Bacchus Dykes, Sir John Hall, Margaret Moxon, Mary Wollstonecraft, Ken Watson, Winifred Holtby, and Field Marshal Bernard Law Montgomery.
"70 years ago tonight, the bells rang out, just like tonight. Hymns were sung. People prayed of thanksgiving. Jubilant people took to the streets, and 2 princesses escaped from their palace onto the streets of London to witness and celebrate what was going on. The reality of peace began to dawn on exhausted Europe. The freedom that had been won for Europe, that we take for granted now, and that we are celebrating tonight, came at a huge cost and human sacrifice. Hull citizens know only too well the price their city paid. The Blitz here left 95% of people homeless and over 1,250 people dead. Families had to learn to live with loss, to rebuild their lives, and make the most of what they had. Europe would be consumed by the massive task of rebuilding its devastated cities and economies. Cooperation across nations was the only way to make this happen. As that process began, the Netherlands encouraged a symbolic gesture from Britain that would commemorate the sacrifice made by over 300,000 Dutch civilians and their gratitude for their own freedom from occupation. So in 1948, my grandfather, best known to most people as Monty, lit the flame of freedom. Then, in his speech, before the flame set off across the channel, he urged people to stand together for freedom and justice in an unsettled world. The flame, kept alive, as we've heard from Mike Fuller, has been in the Netherlands ever since and returned to Hull last year. And this year has made this extraordinary journey from Hull back to Portsmouth and then through France on foot and on bicycles. It has been accompanied by veterans who have laid wreaths at the graves of those from many nations who were not so fortunate, remembering friends and comrades who never made it back home. It's been used to light many other torches and flames carried to all corners of the Netherlands, and tonight that flame will light the beacon as part of this city's ceremony. The journey the flame has made seems to me to be very symbolic and exactly what my grandfather was urging in 1948, that we stand together as nations and peoples, united by the common values that our freedom gives us, that we remember how important that freedom and justice is to us, and the price that was paid for it, so that our children and grandchildren can enjoy it after we have passed the flame onto them. Freedom is fragile, and our world is every bit as unsettled as it was in 1948. It is, as Nelson Mandela reminded us, a long walk to freedom. It is a walk we must continue to make together, cooperating in the spirit of freedom, so that the bright light of its flame can illuminate even the darkest moments.
Thank you. It seems sometimes that when you watch the news or read the papers, that everything seems a long story, harrowing tale of warfare and brutality, normally driven by greed, territory, twisted version of religion, resources, ultimately fear of each other. And this next song I'm going to direct, I wrote this quite a few years ago after hearing such a story. And it was actually set up in Afghanistan, and it was about a group of girls. And in this story, I was standing in my kitchen, my kids had gone to school, and it was about number 7 on the news list. And these little girls were being educated in the outback of Afghanistan somewhere, which is illegal under the laws of their custom. Girls are not to be educated. And the militia found out about these little girls, and they went into the outback, armed up to the max against a group of little girls. And the girls found out that they were about to be found out, and they ran out of the huts and ran for their lives, and the militia mowed them all down, just for trying to get an education. And I remember standing in my kitchen, completely consumed by rage, that kind of rage where you almost want to kind of torch your house down rage. And trying to console myself with this, I remember going to find a friend just to talk about it, and realizing actually that there are all these universal truths that we all carry in ourselves as human beings. That peace is stronger than war, that right is stronger than wrong, that truth is stronger than lies, and that love is stronger than hate. And we all know this intuitively, and those men who did that awful deed that day know that, and they have to carry that until they meet their Maker. And these are undeniable truths. And actually, that's the truth, that is the essence of the human spirit, those truths, because every day, everywhere in the world, there are beautiful, good-hearted deeds being done by good people that never make the news. And that's what we have to hold on to. We all come into this world with love, and that's all we leave behind, not hate. And this song is a testament to that theme, and it's called Stronger.
I believe that love is stronger than Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to now explain about the Marigold campaign. The Marigold campaign was launched on the 13th of February this year in the Eurogeo area of Eastern Holland and Western Germany. We have been given the task of launching it in the UK. There is a fundamental difference between ourselves and the likes of the Netherlands, in that we have never been occupied. The carnage of Blitzkrieg by Nazi Germany was so effective against a country that had effectively demilitarised that Holland was overwhelmed in days. 4,500 young men gave their lives in the hopeless defence of their home country before the Luftwaffe effectively flattened Rotterdam, a city we have a great many ties with. The ultimatum was issued that other cities would follow suit, and the Dutch government had no choice but to capitulate to save the civilian population. However, over the preceding years, a total of 300,000 civilians died in Holland. 75% of the Jewish population was systematically exterminated by the Nazi regime, and in the hunger winter of 1944-45, a total of 22,000 died of starvation in northern Holland after attempts to break through and bring a rapid end to the war were unsuccessful in Operation Market Garden. Many survived by eating tulip bulbs, including Audrey Hepburn, who lived at the very epicentre of Market Garden in a place called Oosterbeek. In Britain, we commemorate our military dead very successfully by means of the Poppy campaign. Those young men and women who died in the fight for the freedoms we enjoy today are remembered as they ought to be. But we are painfully unsuccessful at remembering those civilians who fought alongside them in factories, in mines, on the likes of the Arctic convoys. Many died in what is now known as collateral damage, where settlements were dragged into the conflict as it rolled through. Some communities were systematically annihilated by Nazi Germany for being different. It was deemed a crime to be Jewish or homosexual or disabled. Millions of Poles were killed in their home country, while their young men made up the most successful RAF fighter squadron fighting against the tyranny. In the Second World War, up to 80 million people died, but only 25 million were military. In Hull alone, over 1,200 people were killed in bombing raids, while from the population of 302,000, a total of 152,000 were made homeless when 95% of homes were destroyed or damaged. Sadly, as Hull was so strategically important, the news was suppressed. We were mainly being quoted as a north-east coast town. To this day, our story as a city is almost unknown outside of our boundaries. It is time to tell the story. Tonight, we will undertake a march in silence to commemorate those civilians who were killed in the war. We will end in Queen Victoria Square, the site of the iconic image of our Blitz on May the 8th of Namph, 1941, the Prudential Tower. You are invited to contemplate as we do so that civilians' deaths continue this very night in so many war-torn areas around the world. Tomorrow, we will informally launch the concept of using the marigold as a method of remembrance of those civilians killed in the war. For those killed in the Blitz of Hull, to the Holocaust, to Syria, and to the Ukraine. Our aim is to link next year, the 75th anniversary of the Hull Blitz, with other cities who were also blitzed, so we can all tell our stories. From there, we will spread the word until, in possibly 5 years, we have established the concept nationally. In the past few days, we have laid commemorative marigold plaques at Breendonk concentration camp in Belgium, the site of 1,500 deaths from the 3,000 who suffered there. It was laid in the spirit of unity that the Freedom Flame embodies today and is part of a network of such happenings that will spread across Europe. Please join in this campaign as it spreads. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. We're going to finish our selection of songs now with a song which I wrote specially for tonight's event, which the chorus are going to sing to you. So this is our debut of Freedom Flame.